The lunch crowd had its rhythm at Riverside Café. Like clockwork, it stormed through the doors around 11 each morning, right after the pharmacy's morning line thinned and the laundromat's dryers started humming. The cafe sat sandwiched between the two, quiet on the outside but bustling within. Inside, coffee mugs clinked against saucers, the register spat receipts, and a perpetual hum of motion filled the air. For Tasha Melrose, 29, this was her 7th straight double shift, and it showed. Her shoes were soaked from the drizzle that hadn't let up all morning, and her apron carried the scent of iced tea from an earlier spill. But none of that mattered right now, not with one table missing fries, a to-go order waiting on the counter, and toddlers under booth 3 wailing like sirens. Chaos, sure, but this was her kind of chaos. Manageable, structured, understood. Tasha was quick on her feet, a ghost among tables, nodding politely, refilling glasses, giving tired smiles. Even when a customer barked for more ranch, she didn't flinch. She didn't have time for drama. Not today. Not with Lily, barely 17 and already 2 orders behind. Nearly in tears. "You got this, girl," Tasha whispered to her. "Don't let them see you sweat." Behind the counter, Clayton Renshaw stood like a king inspecting his court. Hair slicked back like some forgotten TV host, arms folded, eyes hawk sharp. His voice cracked like dry leather when he barked across the kitchen noise. "Melrose, table 12 still waitin' on their check." "I sent it 10 minutes ago," she answered, not even turning around. "Then walk it over yourself, don't just send things." She bit the inside of her cheek. She'd learned long ago that answering back never helped. Clayton didn't shout, he didn't have to. His calm, smug tone told you all you needed to know. You were lucky to be there, and kindness was a favor he might take away at any second. And yet, there was something different in the air that day. Something she couldn't place until she saw him. An old man, soaked from the rain, standing near the entrance like he wasn't sure why he came. He didn't move, didn't sit, just stood there, eyes cloudy, hair matted, jacket clinging to him like a memory. One boot was untied, a military patch clung to his sleeve, faded, torn. Tasha noticed the dog tag around his neck, half hidden beneath his coat. No one else saw him. She stepped away from the counter and approached gently. "Sir, are you okay?" He blinked, trying to find focus. "Am I? I was supposed to meet someone, I think." His voice cracked like dry leaves. When she asked if he was hungry, he nodded faintly. "I could eat something warm." The sign in the break room flashed in her memory. "We're a business, not a shelter." But there was no policy in the world that could convince her to walk away. She led him to a booth, the far one by the window, wrapped a lost and found blanket around his shoulders, and made her way to the register. She pulled a $10 bill from her tips and slid it in. "Louise," she called to the cook. "Meatloaf, mashed, green beans, extra gravy." Louise, wise enough to know better than to ask, simply nodded. The old man barely spoke as she placed the plate in front of him. He stared at it as if he hadn't seen real food in days. "Thank you," he whispered. "You didn't have to." "I did," she said softly, but she had barely turned around when the storm hit. Clayton had seen everything, from the moment she seated the man to the moment she paid for the food herself. His expression was like ice cracking. "You wanna tell me what the hell that was?" He snapped loud enough for heads to turn. He looked cold, confused. "I paid for the meal myself. That's not how we run things," Clayton hissed, stepping forward, his voice lowering. "You don't make policy here." "I do." "Then dock my pay," she said. Write me up. Just don't make this into a... But he didn't let her finish. He raised his voice and faced the room. Attention, folks. Just so everyone's clear, this employee decided to start handing out free meals on our dime. So if anyone else needs a handout, Tasha here's got it covered. The utensils stopped clinking. A couple paused mid-conversation. Someone let out a nervous laugh. Tasha's face went red, but not with embarrassment, with fury. The veteran looked up, confused, unsure if this was about him. He tried to say something, but Clayton waved him off like trash. "You're done, Melrose. Turn in your apron and get out." Tasha didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just stood there, breathing. Louise stuck his head out from the kitchen. Lily froze near the drink station. "No warning?" she asked. "No conversation? Take it up with your conscience," Clayton said. Then something no one expected happened. The veteran stood, slow and shaky, and reached into his coat. From inside, he pulled a glint of silver, an old military badge, and a purple heart pin, worn and bent. "I served in Khe-Sanh," he said, voice trembling. "Most of my it didn't make it." She showed me more respect than I've gotten in decades. Clayton looked unimpressed. "Sir, please finish your meal and stay out of staff matters." The old man placed the purple heart gently on the table and whispered, "They'll know I wasn't alone." Tasha wasn't sure what he meant, but something about the way he said it sent a chill up her spine. Like the words had weight, like they weren't meant for the living. She laid her apron on the table and walked out. Her hoodie clung to her in the rain. The bus stop felt 1,000 miles away. Inside, the silence grew. Clayton tried to move on, snapped at Lily, barked at Louise, but the cafe had changed. The mood had shifted. Something sacred had been broken. A few customers got up and left without touching their food. One woman propped her phone up against her coffee cup and started recording quietly, and the veteran, he sat alone, the meatloaf now cold, the purple heart still shining on the edge of the table, but no one, not Clayton, not Tasha, not even the old man, could have predicted what would happen next. The bell above the cafe door rang once, then again, then 2 more times. Boots, heavy, deliberate. 4 Marines stepped inside, wearing uniforms pressed with purpose and eyes like they belonged to a different era. Not recruits, not just soldiers, men who had been through things. One of them approached the booth and saluted. "Sir, we got your message." The old man blinked. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," he said. "She just fed me." The Marine nodded. "That's why we're here." And in that moment, every whisper, every secret glance, every drop of silence bent towards something greater. Justice wasn't coming in a courtroom. It was walking through the door of a cafe, and Riverside would never be the same again. The air inside the cafe thickened like fog laced with electricity. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Coffee cups hovered inches from lips. Forks froze midair. People sensed something different. It wasn't just 4 men in uniform walking into a small town diner. It was the weight they carried, the kind you don't see but feel deep in your bones. Clayton Renshaw blinked twice and stepped forward from behind the counter, his confident swagger returning like a mask slipping back into place. "Gentlemen," he said, voice oozing false charm, "how can I help you?" The tallest Marine stepped forward. Square, jawed, scar on his cheek, eyes that had seen things no civilian would ever understand. His name tag read, SGT, Major Langston. "We're not here for your help." Langston said coldly, "We're here because of him." He nodded toward the old veteran, still seated in the corner booth, now more alert than before. The blanket still draped over his shoulders, the plate of food untouched, the purple heart pin still resting on the table like an accusation. Clayton's lips curled. If this is about that misunderstanding earlier, misunderstanding, one of the other Marines barked, stepping forward. You humiliated a war hero in front of your whole establishment and fired the woman who treated him like a human being. That's not a misunderstanding, that's a disgrace. The veteran tried to speak. Boys, you don't need to. But Langston raised a hand, gently silencing him. We're here to speak for those who can't, for those buried in foreign soil, and for those who came back but were never really welcomed. He turned to the customers. Did anyone in this room object to that woman showing kindness to a man who bled for this country? No one spoke. Not a single soul. One woman, the one who had started recording earlier, nodded slowly and held up her phone. It's all on video, she said, and I posted it. Already has 300,000 views. Clayton scoffed, oh please, internet outrage, it'll pass by tomorrow. Langston didn't even flinch. No, it won't, because you didn't just insult a man. You insulted a community. You insulted every parent who's lost a child to war. Every vet who comes home to find a job application ignored. Every person who gave something so people like you could hide behind policies. A silence fell over the room like a thundercloud. And that woman you fired, Langston added, her name is Tasha Melrose. A civilian, yes. A waitress, sure. But today, she acted with more honor than some officers I've served with. Clayton's jaw tightened. She broke the rules. And you broke humanity, said another Marine. Someone in the back, a father with 2 kids, stood up. I've been coming here for 10 years, not anymore. He pulled his kids by the hand and walked out. Then another couple stood. Then a group of students. Within minutes, nearly every table was empty. Clayton stammered, hey, come on. You can't just walk out over one thing. Langston faced him, now standing inches away. You have 2 choices, he said. Publicly apologize, reinstate Tasha Melrose with back pay, and donate 2 months' profits to a veterans relief fund. Or we start making some phone calls, and I promise you, this story will be picked up by every major outlet before sunset. Clayton's face drained of color. But your call, Langston said. This country's still free, right? Clayton looked at the clock as if trying to pause time. Then he looked at the camera phones still rolling. His voice was dry as dust. I'll make the call. Langston nodded. Good. And one more thing. He turned to the old man. Sir, you deserve more than a meal. You deserve respect. So we're taking you out of here. You'll stay with us until we find you proper housing. VA contacts, the works. You're not alone anymore. The veteran's eyes welled with tears. I never expected this. Langston smiled. That's the problem with this country. The people who have earned the most expect the least. As the Marines helped the man out of his booth, Clayton stood rooted to the spot. One by one, every remaining customer walked out, some shaking their heads, some filming, none offering him sympathy. He was no longer in control. Tasha stood at the bus stop a few blocks away, soaked to the bone, tears mixed with rainwater on her cheeks. She'd just texted her sister, trying to figure out how they'd make rent this month. She had only $40 left from tips after buying that meal. Then she heard footsteps behind her, heavy ones. She turned and froze. 4 Marines, marching in unison with the old veteran between them, walked right up to her. People on the street stared, some filmed, some clapped. Langston stepped forward. You got a second? He asked. She nodded, speechless. You fed a man who served when others wouldn't. When he was forgotten by most, you saw him. You didn't do it for praise or points. You did it because it was right. That matters. That always matters. He reached into his pocket and handed her an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Something from a few people who don't think kindness should cost you your job." She opened it. A check. $10,000. Her knees nearly buckled. "I can't. You already did," Langston said. "Take it, and take tomorrow off. We're getting you your job back. Or a better one." The veteran stepped forward, slow but steady. He reached into his coat and pulled something from his chest pocket. His purple heart. He held it out to her. She froze. "No, I can't take that. I didn't earn it." "You did today," he whispered. The weight of that medal in her hand felt heavier than anything she'd carried on a tray. It wasn't just metal, it was memory, sacrifice, trust. Tasha stood silently as the group walked away, the world watching, not just on sidewalks, but across phones, cities, states. Her story spread like fire, and it wasn't about viral fame. It was about something far more powerful, truth. In the days that followed, everything changed. Riverside Café's Yelp page was bombarded with one-star reviews. Their social media turned into a war zone. Reporters showed up, asking about the veteran, about the Marines, about Tasha. Clayton issued a public apology on camera. It felt scripted, hollow. No one bought it, but Tasha. She was invited on morning shows. Offered 3 job positions within a week, including one at a prestigious veterans charity cafe in the city. She chose none of them. Instead, she partnered with the Marines and opened her own food truck, Heart and Honor, serving meals to veterans and homeless communities, using a portion of profits to fund VA outreach. Lines wrapped around the block on the first day. The first plate she served, meatloaf, mashed, green beans, extra gravy. A folded American flag sat at the front window, and taped to the side of the truck, laminated for all to see, was a message written in marker. "Kindness is not against the rules. Humanity is policy." 3 months passed. Mayfield wasn't the same anymore, and truthfully, it wasn't just the cafe. It was the town's soul, shaken, stirred, and awakened. The Riverside Café, once the pride of Main Street, now stood half empty most days. The same booths that had hosted morning regulars, Sunday brunches, and business meetups now echoed with silence. A few loyal patrons trickled in, but even they avoided eye contact. Their conversations hushed, unsure if staying meant complicity. Clayton Renshaw sat behind the counter, tapping the same pencil for hours. His once pristine uniform shirt looked wrinkled. The confidence he wore like a badge was gone, and that clipboard retired. No more policies to enforce when no one cared to follow them. The online backlash had slowed, but the scars remained. He'd tried promotions, free pie days, even rebranded the menu. None of it worked. The narrative had left the building long before the customers had. The town had moved on, just not with him. And at the center of that shift was a truck. Not just any truck, but Heart and Honor, bright red and silver, parked 3 blocks from where the cafe used to buzz. It became a gathering place, not just for meals, but for meaning. Veterans lined up for food and found more than a full plate. They found community. Some offered to help, peeling potatoes, scrubbing pans, or just sweeping the sidewalk. One old man handed Tasha a drawing his grandson had made of her truck with "Hero" written in crayon at the top. Tasha framed it. It hung by the service window. Reporters still showed up now and then. Not for drama anymore, but for inspiration. "Miss Melrose, how do you stay humble with all this attention?" Tasha would smile gently. "I was just doing my job." The difference is, the world decided to notice. One chilly morning, a sleek black SUV pulled up beside the food truck. Out stepped the mayor, followed by the governor. They walked up without pomp, without press. "We've been watching," the governor said, "and we want your program statewide. What you've built is bigger than food, it's dignity. Would you be willing to help us replicate it?" Tasha's hands, still wet from washing dishes, trembled. "You want me? You reminded us what service looks like," the mayor added, "and what leadership really means." Meanwhile, SGT, Major Langston and his unit worked quietly behind the scenes. They arranged permanent housing for the veteran. The same man now volunteered 3 times a week at the local VA center. His voice, once frail, carried strength again. One Sunday afternoon, Heart and Honor held a public event called Table for One, a symbolic dinner honoring fallen soldiers. A single plate, a candle, a folded flag, and beside it, an open seat with a placard that read, "Reserved for those who gave everything." Families cried, veterans saluted, strangers hugged, and Tasha stood by the truck, apron dusted with flour, her face calm, but her eyes full of emotion. She didn't say much that day. She didn't have to. The silence spoke volumes. Even Clayton showed up that evening. He stood at the edge of the crowd, hands in his pockets, watching. He didn't speak. He didn't interrupt. For the first time in a long while, he just listened. Someone recognized him and moved to confront him, but Tasha noticed and gently stepped between. "Let him be," she said. People looked at her like she was crazy. But she wasn't. "I used to hate the idea of forgiving someone who never asked," she told Langston later, "but now I realize it's not about them. It's about me not carrying what they should be carrying." Langston nodded. "That's leadership." By winter, Heart and Honor had expanded into a second truck, then a third. They hired 4 full-time workers, all of them former waitstaff from Riverside Café, people who had been unemployed, forgotten, or written off. Tasha trained them herself, not just how to take orders, but how to see people. Look in their eyes before you take their name, she told them, because sometimes that's the only time someone feels seen all day. Clayton eventually closed the cafe. A for lease sign hung crooked in the window. People passed by without even glancing. His reign had ended not with a bang, but with a whimper. He moved out of town quietly. Rumor had it he tried to open another restaurant in the city. But Yelp, Google, and the internet never forget. His name was now attached to a legacy of cruelty, not customer service. Meanwhile, Tasha was invited to speak at local schools. One student asked her, "How did you know what to do when nobody else did?" Tasha paused and smiled softly. "Because I didn't wait for permission to be decent." Spring came, and with it, flowers around the base of the food truck. Some left anonymously, others came with notes. "You helped my brother. You reminded me people still care. You made me believe in good again." And taped next to all those messages was the purple heart, still wrapped in its case, but now with a sign underneath, "Given to me by a man who lost everything but gave me hope." One day, a girl no older than 10 approached the truck. She had a quarter in her hand and a determination in her step. "I want to buy a meal for a soldier," she said proudly. Tasha knelt and took the coin gently. "This," she said, "is the start of something beautiful." It was never about food. It was about feeding something far deeper: honor, grace, redemption, and the simple, undeniable truth that kindness, real, messy, inconvenient kindness, changes everything, one act at a time, one meal at a time. One woman who just kept showing up when no one else would.
If you liked this story, please like, subscribe, and share it with others so they can learn something from it too.